You need to cut your costs. And I know, it sucks. That's why in this video I'm going to give you a few ideas about how to cut your expenses without ruining your life. Spending money is easy and enjoyable, but saving money is difficult and requires a lot of effort. And many people try to save and fail because they make it too hard, they make it too difficult. Whichever strategy you choose to cut your expenses, it must be sustainable in the long term. The first thing to do, even before you try and save money, is to track your expenses. You need to get to a point where you have a very good understanding of how and when you spend your money. I've got an entire video on this channel about tracking your expenses, and I'll put the link in the description below if you want to have a look. But long story short, as Peter Drucker said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So make sure you create a full list of your monthly expenses and pay special attention to your subscriptions and regular payments and automated payments and direct debit, and in general to all these transactions that happen without you noticing. Create a full list because that will give you an initial map of the areas where you can try and make a difference. The second thing to do is to define your spending goal. That's your monthly limit. That's the maximum amount of money that you want to spend in any given month. For many people, this will be their income, their salary, if they have a job, or potentially a bit less than that, so they can end up saving some money at the end of every month. If you don't have an idea, take your salary, take out 20%, and that could be your monthly limit. The next thing to do is to tackle expensive debt. This is a very important point that many people miss. You have to create a list of all of your debts with their monthly repayments, identify the most expensive ones in percentage terms, and make it a goal to tackle that one first. So by all means, keep making your minimum payments on all the other debt and use your excess money to pay down the most expensive one first. And once that one is paid off, you move to the second highest and start from scratch. Don't make the mistake that many people make of distributing their money across several debts. Don't do that. Use your excess money to tackle the most expensive one. Your wallet is essentially like a bucket. Every month you take money from your salary, from your dividends, from any income you have, and put it in this wallet. But expensive debt makes the wallet leaky. You put money in and it will go down because of that debt. So make sure you pay the expensive one first and then move to the others. So the next step is to identify areas where you can save money. If you've tracked your expenses, you will have a list of items that you spend your money on. Some of these items will be essentials, such as rent, and others will be negotiable items, things that you buy but could actually renounce to. So the essential things, of course, we won't touch, but the others represent areas where you can actually operate in and try and save some money. However, my recommendation is that you think hard about whether something is actually negotiable, because you may discover that some items that on paper are negotiable are actually non-negotiable to you in particular. A classic example is your coffee or latte in the morning. Of course you can save money on that one, but if your life is going to be miserable because you renounce to a coffee which is really important to you, I would consider that to be non-negotiable. Remember, the overall goal of this activity is to try and save money without ruining your life. If that coffee is important in the morning for you, then consider that a non-negotiable item. That's an essential espresso. Why not? Now, once you have your list of negotiable items, the first thing to do is to eliminate the no-brainers. No-brainers are items that give you very little joy but still cost money. Think of bank fees, for example, or unused subscriptions. If you have a subscription to the gym but you seldom go, it may be time to bite the bullet and decide that for the time being you don't want to be in the gym. So cancel that subscription. The next thing to do once you've eliminated your no-brainers is to try and optimize. So definitely there are a few items on that list that you can optimize. The typical area where you can spend less but maintain the same level of satisfaction is with groceries. You can definitely identify products that are maybe from a lesser known brand but give you exactly the same taste, and buy those and spend less money. And if you do it across the full range of groceries, you may end up saving hundreds of dollars per month without even noticing. Where I live, for example, I know that I could buy pasta from a famous brand or pasta from a non-famous brand, but with the same level of taste because I've tried it, and spend half the money. It's a 50% discount on just one item, and I can do that across several items. Just one suggestion that I'm going to give you, it's not on products that you can save money, you can also save money on services. As a practical example, I just renewed my car insurance. My current provider wanted me to pay 1100 euros, but I was able to find the same insurance with the same cover for just 380 euros. So I saved more than 700 euros just by spending 5 minutes on a comparison site. Okay, so we have eliminated the no-brainers, we've optimized some of the items. Now, with the things that are left, it's time to try and see whether we can reduce. What I mean by reducing is that you have a look at your list, you don't eliminate anything, you just try and see whether you can get away with having less of it. For example, could you eat out 1 day less per week? Or could you eat less while you are at the restaurant? Could you choose less expensive wine? The overall idea here is to preserve what matters and reduce the rest. For example, if you like going out with your friends for a beer and a chat and you love the social aspect of that, instead of reducing the number of nights out that you have, try and see if you can drink a bit less when you're out with your friends. Okay, at this point we've already optimized and substituted and eliminated the no-brainers. Now we get to a point where if we want to save, we need to start cutting something. And before we renounce to something that we want to do, and before ruining our lifestyle, before we get the frustration level one notch higher, we can try this little trick, which is around delaying things. So if you've set a monthly limit, and if you're tracking your expenses, which you should be doing, you know when you are approaching the monthly limit. And if that's the case, the best thing that you can do, instead of renouncing to something completely, is to simply reschedule it for next month. And at that point, next month may be 1 week away or 10 days away. So it's just a case of being a bit patient. But the overall point is to keep your frustration level down. You can't say to yourself, I'm never going to be able to do this. You want to tell yourself, I will be able to do it just in 10 more days. A little trick, but I can promise it's a very effective trick. So this is the last resort, cutting your expenses for real. At this point, we've tried everything else. We've tried eliminating the no-brainers, we've tried substituting, we've tried optimizing, delaying, all the other techniques. And hopefully these have given you a big head start. But if you're still above your monthly limit, at this point, the last resort really is to cut something for real. Now, you need to accept a decrease in satisfaction, you need to accept an increase in frustration, which hopefully will be under control. But I hope the result of keeping your finances under control will give you the extra energy that you need to face cutting something which at this point is going to be a valuable part of your life. There are two ways to go about cutting your expenses. One way is to save a bit here and there, so I don't know, 5% on groceries, 5% on purchases, 5% on travel, so that you try and have a small level of frustration in every area, and hopefully all these little savings together will give you a big saving. But there is also the opposite idea, which is to identify 2 or 3 big items and try and see whether you can renounce to those, or maybe whether you can cut on those. And this way you could potentially achieve bigger savings. An example could be if you want to buy a new car, which costs 40k, maybe you could be able to buy the same type of car from a different make and spend 30. So the big saving of 10,000 would be much bigger than all the savings you can achieve by, spreading little savings across all categories. Of course, these are one-offs in nature, so you will have to find the next big thing next month and so on. But it's definitely an idea, because sometimes renouncing to one thing and keeping the rest fixed may turn out to be easier than cutting here and there, but everywhere. The final suggestion that I'm going to throw in there as a bonus tip is Geoarbitrage. This is a bit of a bonus tip, and I understand it may kind of change your life in different ways. But the reality is, if you're not tied to a specific location, if you live in an expensive part of your town or area, maybe a consideration should be to try and spend less on your accommodation. Maybe move outside of town, maybe move to a smaller place, maybe move internationally. If you can afford it, of course, living in the United States or living in the Philippines will have completely different costs. And saving money on such a big item such as your rent or your mortgage could basically mean that you don't have to save in any other area of your life, which may be a life-changing thing to do. Reducing costs is a great way to boost your disposable income, but of course there is a limit to how much you can save. You can cut here and there, but there will be a point under which you can't go. The other side of the equation is to generate more income, and if you want to explore ideas around generating more income, have a look at this video. Thanks for watching.